Welcome to Early Years Workshop. The experts with me today are Jed Cotton, who's an infant school head teacher from Hove, Diane Rich, who is an early years consultant, and our very special guest, Jo Moore, from Berridge Infant and Nursery School. Jo, tell us a little bit about Berridge Infant and Nursery.
Berridge is very much an open plan school with a nursery, 2 reception classes and then some year 1, year 2 classes. I'm one of the reception teachers and we work very much as a team.
And the first activity you've chosen is to go outside for mathematics.
Slide back, walk away, climb up to the top. A triangle's what we've got. Which one do you think is a triangle? And why do you think that's a triangle? Do you want to tell everybody?
It's got 3 sides.
3 sides. I'll give Jade a clap. You're going to walk around, and whenever you find a shape, you've got to pick it up and come and bring it and put it in the right place. Off you go.
That was a focused activity. Would it break out afterwards into some self-chosen activity?
Yes, because I choose either to do a literacy or numeracy-based morning each morning. I make sure that the children have had some focus time with me or the teaching assistant, and then give them the opportunity to consolidate the skills that they've learnt in independent activities. So you can see here that we're looking at shapes. I'd make sure that there were shapes available for the children to sort or play with or draw around and talk about.
How might you take that forward?
Well, it was lovely to see that you were using the outdoor environment. You've got a lovely space there for the children to be in. I mean, it'd be lovely to pick up on your notion of kinesthetic learning and getting those children moving, getting them to run in a triangular shape or a rectangular shape. I can just imagine them doing that and to look in their natural environment there and find shapes or shaped objects that they identify. I'd love to see a conversation between 2 of those children or a small group picking up leaves and picking up stones and saying, well, is a leaf a circular shape? Is it an a rectangular shape? Actually, there's a bit of it that looks like a triangular shape. You know, some lovely conversations that they could have.
That's something that I would extend upon, you know, in the week to follow. Making sure that children have thought about the shape in the environment and perhaps even having the chance to bring things in from home and display things. And like you say, using the outside environment, anything that we can find there.
We saw quite a lot of Jade in the outside activity. What did Jade go on to do?
Now, Jade was my target child for that day, so I wanted to give her both opportunities for focus play and independent play. And she went on to work in the role play area, which was our pet shop at the time. Could Barraquette speak to Jade, please, Ellie?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell Jade what you want.
A snake. Have you got snakes and rabbits? Yeah.
Well, you know in shops we have a queue, don't we? So if Boris is first, it looks like Barraquette's second, you're next, Aisha.
Ring, ring, ring. Tickets again, then. Ring, ring, ring. Tomorrow. Not ready yet. Stop it. So, I need to call them.
So what was your role in that play to start with?
At this point, the pet shop had been going for about 2 weeks in the class and had started with a visit to an actual pet shop. But I feel that to try and extend a role play area. You have to keep remodelling things with the children.
Shops are something you like?
Well, I've always found it really difficult to set up a shop, and I admire you for doing it. And it's obviously a much loved shop and a well-used shop. They obviously really enjoy being in there. I'm glad to hear that they actually went on a visit to a pet shop, so they've had that first-hand experience. They know what a pet shop in the real world is like and what it's about. There's lots of different behaviour within shops. There's the shopkeeper who actually might take your money. There might be somebody who's an advisory consultant who might know about which snakes are poisonous. There's the caring for the animals. You know, there's something very unique about a pet shop. And did you have any real pets come in?
We did actually. The deputy brought in her pet dog, which the children were very, very excited about. You know, and again, once she'd been in visiting with her dog, all the children were buying dogs from the pet shop and calling it Poppy, and so...
Yeah, one of the exciting things about sort of having a pet shop would be the scope to have real live pets, live animals. I know they visited the pet shop, but we didn't really see, obviously in the episode, live animals. Is there any reason why that was the case?
With Berridge being an open plan school, at dinner times you've got, say, 200 children going past this particular role play area. So I think really it'd be quite difficult to have permanent residents in the pet shop. But in the broad topic of animals, the children did have the opportunity to nurture tadpoles into frogs and butterflies. So
Let's just broaden this slightly into role play in general. Some of the learning points that are so important from role play, Diane.
I think role play is important right the way through the primary age range, actually, for all children, because I think one thing it clearly gives them is a sense of who they are in the world and the different aspects of the world that they're exploring. For example, your pet shop gives them a sense of, well, who in the world goes to pet shops? What do they do in pet shops? If I go to pet shops, who does that make me? How do I behave if I go to a pet shop? Things like that. But you apply those simple questions to other aspects of the world, and it gives them a real sense of belonging, who they are. And that ultimately is what children are exploring, me in the world. What does this mean?
Role play is storytelling, isn't it? And what is life about? What's learning about, but telling a story?
Yes, and it also gives a very, very valuable and meaningful vehicle for children to choose the ways in which they link experiences across the range of provision, so that they can make props that will support their role play and develop their understanding, often along lines of the way they wish it to go, and not in the way that adults would perhaps think it would go naturally.
that's why I'd often start talking about, OK, we're going to have a pet shop or whatever it may be, and just get a list of what the children think should be in that role play area, so that, like you say, they're involved in making the props and the posters and the signs, and they've got far more attachment to it then.
Yeah, and it's meaningful, it's got a meaningful context where all these things come together to enrich their experience.
So children are involved in actually setting it up.
Yeah.
But the adult does need to come back and model at various times, don't they? So
Well, I think
this isn't just...
There's two levels of setting it up. I think there's setting it up physically, and their trip to the pet shop would have helped them do that. What do we find in a pet shop? And then there's what do we do in a pet shop and who goes in a pet shop. So that's setting it up behaviourally. And then, of course, there's a different kind of, I call that pet shop play, a kind of authentic role play experience where children are mimicking the real world. And then, of course, there's the fantasy and the imaginative world. And I think there's lots of scope for that. But I think if you get into catching the stories that they're making with their pet shop, and that's a wonderful thing for practitioners to do, is just observe children playing and the little tiny stories they make as they play. Sometimes it will be as simple as there was a pet shop or a boy bought a snake in a pet shop, but sometimes it will become much more complex. So you'll have the setting, you'll have characters, you'll have relationships between those characters, and you'll have a little storyline going along. And then when you think of that and you parallel that to actually children writing a story, they're doing exactly the same things, but the starting point for writing a good story is playing a good story.
Yes, it's just that crucial aspect of role play that you can't really expect children to be writing stories if they've not been a participant in the story themselves.
Role play puts children in charge, doesn't it? And it's that balance between children being in charge and adults being in charge. And I think this is the bit where we need to have a look at Schwabe's morning, to look at that balance for him.
Show us again, just to remind Schwabe. Starts at the top, comes down, back up and over and down with a flick. That's the one, thank you very much. Lovely.
His face when he lifts out those carrots is absolutely priceless. He's proud, he's interested, he's motivated. You know, it's absolutely a joy to see.
Yeah.
And if we can capture the things that are motivating children, we need to capitalise on those and give them more of those things.
I think it's that emotional charge they get from things that they have chosen to do.
Yes, and that would be a very powerful learning point to feed in some of the more focused work that you know or you've planned for the children to do. So, you know, when Schwabe's on the computer, if one of the, you know, targeted activities is particular sounds or those sorts of things, is to perhaps introduce him to those in the context of the computer or the letters that would be relevant for his experience outside with the carrots and moving the learning forward in that sort of way. It's just, I suppose, positioning the driving seat flexibly over the course of the session, isn't it?
And that constant drive that everybody has to get balance between those activities, isn't it?
For me,
What do you think?
Well, we often hear the terms structured, a highly structured or a structured way. And for me, when we come to the word structured, what we mean is structuring something based on exactly what you said, Jed, children's interests and the things that motivate them to learn and the things that are appropriate to their developmental stage of learning. So that's what we need to provide for children. And to do that, we need to know what those things are. What is it that's interesting our children? What is it that's motivating them? And in what ways do they best learn? So if we find that our children best learn outside, then let's have lots of outside activities. And children will choose wonderful activities if we learn about them as much as we can and if we're offering them activities that are worth choosing. They'll be so motivated.
Yeah.
And perhaps sometimes we are not helping people by talking about it as two different things, because it's children's interest that ought to be informing our focused activity. And that's all from Early Years Workshop today. I'd like to thank Jed and Diane and especially Joe and Christabel for allowing us in their classroom. So from all of us on Early Years Workshop, goodbye.